Welcome back to our YouTube channel Visa Mance. If you are considering living and working in Australia and exploring skilled work visa options, then you have come to the right place. Known as the TSS visa, the subclass 482 allows skilled and in-demand foreign workers to come to Australia and work for an approved local employer for up to 4 years. It is a temporary visa but can lead to permanent residency. This visa replaces the old 457 visa. So, if you want to know all about the 182 visas to work temporarily in Australia, be sure to watch till the end. Let's start the overview of the 482 visa. Before we get into the details, let's take a quick look at the basics. The Subclass 82 visa, also known as the Temporary Skills Shortage Visa or TSS visa, allows highly skilled workers to live and work in Australia for up to 4 years sponsored by an employer-approved local. The 482 visa has quite strict eligibility criteria compared to other Australian visas. You must have an occupation on the skills shortage list. Assessment of skills, English ability, employer sponsorship and meeting health and eligibility requirements. But the advantage is that you can stay in Australia medium term to live and work if you meet the eligibility criteria. You can also bring your dependent family members under your visa. So if you have the skills Australia needs, this visa could be your pathway to experiencing Australian life. Now let's go through the registration process step by step. Eligibility criteria, small black square. To apply for this skilled work visa, there are several key eligibility requirements set forth by the Department of Home Affairs that you will need to meet. Your occupation must be on the Australian Medium and Long-Term Strategic Skills List, which identifies the skills facing the national shortage. This list is updated regularly based on labor market analysis. Examples of occupations on the current list include technology jobs such as software engineer, builder, chef, doctor, nurse, surveyor, and more. For example, for technical occupations you will need a valid Australian Technical Skills Assessment. A skills assessment can take a month or 3. English language ability, all 482 visa applicants must demonstrate at least competent English. This requires a minimum score of 6 in each of the 4 components: reading, writing, speaking, and listening on the IELTS English test. For occupations that require greater English proficiency like nursing, the minimum scores are higher at 7 in each band. To show you meet health and character requirements, you'll need to undergo medical examinations. These checks help confirm you are of good care approved sponsorship. The most important requirement for the 482 verses is securing sponsorship from an Australian employer willing to hire you. Your employer must be an approved sponsor. Their business can be any size, small, medium, or large. The key is your employer must prove there is a genuine need for your skills, fill a vacancy in their business, and that they couldn't find an Australian citizen or permanent resident who was suitably qualified and experienced to fill the nominated position. This is known as the labor market testing requirement. If you meet the main visa eligibility criteria, let's now go through the detailed step-by-step process to apply. The first step is finding an Australian employer who is willing to sponsor you. For this, they must have a genuine need for your specific skills and expertise. Your employer can be in any occupation and located in any part of Australia. There are lots of ways to connect with. Respond to job advertisements online and on boards like Seek and LinkedIn. Make sure your skills and experience match their needs. Directly approach companies in your occupation, and pitch yourself. Hire a migration agent to match your profile with employers looking to sponsor overseas talent. The key is clearly highlighting to employers while your particular expertise makes you the ideal candidate for them to sponsor. Gather required. Once you've found an employer, you need to start compiling all the documents you'll need to prove you meet visa requirements. It's essential your documents are complete and accurate. Work closely with your migration agent or lawyer if you have one. Employer applies for nomination. With all your documents ready, your employer can then apply to the Department of Home Affairs for approval to sponsor you and nominate you for this visa. This is also called labor agreement nomination. This process can take 2 to 4 weeks. Submit visa application. Once your employer's nomination is approved, you can then submit your online visa application through IMEI account along with supporting documents. You'll need to pay the visa application fee, which is currently around $1,150 AUD. Having a migration agent assist with your application is recommended to ensure you avoid any mistakes. Complete health examinations. After applying, you'll receive instructions to complete medical examinations from an approved immigration panel clinic. They will conduct checks and tests and then upload results to which will assess if you meet health criteria. Received visa decision. The Immigration Department will take 3 months to process your complete visa application and either approve or deny it. You can check IMEI account for updates. And remember, don't book flights or make major plans until you receive your official visa grant notification. Visa conditions. If your subclass 482 visa is approved, there will be strict conditions you must follow while in Australia. Reaching conditions could lead to visa cancellation. Here are the key things to know. Length of stay. 482 visas are generally granted for up to 2 years initially, with a maximum 4-year stay permitted. Extension are possible through renewals. Work rights. You can only work in Australia for your sponsoring employer in your approved occupation. You cannot work for other companies while holding this visa. Location. You can live and work anywhere in Australia under this visa unless the government imposed a special condition restricting your location upon granting family rights. Eligible family members like your spouse and children can be included in your visa application as dependents. Their visas will be linked to yours. Health insurance. You must maintain adequate health insurance in Australia for yourself and all dependents on your visa for the whole duration of your stay. Visa renewals. If you and your employer want to continue your working arrangement after your initial 482 visa expires, there is the possibility of renewal for another term of up to 4 years. Here are some key requirements and steps for 482 visa renewals. Your employer must agree to continue sponsoring you. Your job and occupation must still exist. You'll need to reapply and meet all the usual visa eligibility criteria. Health and character checks may need to be redone. Importantly, skills assessments and English tests are not required for 482 renewals. This saves time and costs. Renewals typically take 2-3 months to process. Minimal disruption to living and working in Australia while the extension is processed. So, renewals are relatively straightforward for existing 482 holders. But remember, there are no guarantees of renewal. Immigration will reassess if your employer still has a genuine need to fill your job. And if you still meet all pathways to permanent residency, one of the greatest benefits of the subclass 482 visa is that it can lead to permanent residence in Australia if you excel in your role and your employer wants you to remain with them long term. There are 2 main pathways. 1. Employer nomination scheme. After you complete 2 years full-time employment with your sponsoring employer, they may nominate you for permanent residency through the employer nomination scheme. This will transition you from a temporary to permanent visa. 2. Regional visas. If you've worked in regional Australia on a 482 visa for at least 3 years, you may be eligible for a permanent visa through the regional sponsored migration scheme. If gaining permanent residency in Australia is your goal, the 482 visa provides an excellent opportunity to first gain local work experience on a temporary basis. Prove your skills and impress your employer before qualifying for permanent sponsorship. I hope you found this guide helpful. Thanks for watching.